So I'm going to tell you how Pride Restoration can help you with disasters. How many people here are property owners? Does everyone here own some type of property? Yep. Has anyone ever had a disaster before? Any type of water damage, fire, mold, or other kind of unsettling things happen to the property? Yeah, so it has happened, and it may, if it hasn't happened to you, count yourself lucky, but that doesn't mean it's never going to happen to you. So just go be pretty prepared because they don't come when you're not expecting it. They come when you're not expecting it.
So Jim is our president. So he's been around since 1987, and we can help with fire, water, mold cleanup, and restoration. He also can do services like that in Missouri and Illinois, both states. He's told me he's actually gone out of state a few times as well. So if it's a big enough job, we can do kind of any state. I'm the business development manager, Sarah Cantrell. So I help with all luncheons, events, networking, marketing. I go out in these jobs sometimes as well, and I document with pictures. We upload those into our Encircle app and document in the Encircle app. So we have access to those pictures as well as the families. The insurance adjuster has access as well. And so that is a little bit of us. So who are we? Right. So, like we said, we've been around since 1987, so over 39 years now. We have a local management team of over 75 years experience. We're available 24/7, so it's pretty cool. Jim will, just so you guys know, Jim will answer that cell phone 24/7. He's had calls at 2 a.m. before. So I try not to take advantage of that. Like if I'm craving Taco Bell, buddy, I'm calling Jim. Like, Jim, come get me some Taco Bell, friend. We are veteran owned and operated. So Jim actually has a background in the Air Force and Navy as well. Family owned and operated. Dustin Sanders is our operations manager. So he's over all of our technicians who go out into the field and help restore these houses. Okay. Um, so what we can do for you, mold remediation. We do fire and water damage restoration, odor removal, remodeling and reconstruction, air quality testing, personal property pack out and storage, inventoried contents. We collaborate with the insurance adjusters so the families don't have to. So we are the go-between, the mediator with these insurance adjusters. So the families don't have to worry about that. They've got enough going on. They might have just lost their house with a fire, right? So here's a bunch of pictures of mold damage, water damage, fire. We do also help with hoarding situations, biohazard cleanup, sewage, things of that nature as well. Also, friends, in regards to the odor removal, we do have, I don't think I added this to the slides, but we do have hypochlorous acid. We actually use that to help with the cleaning of the houses. So hypochlorous acid is an all-natural deodorizer, cleaner, and disinfectant. So it can also be a natural Germ-X for your hands. The only thing it is just electrolyzed salt and water. That's all it is. So it's pretty cool. If you guys want some free samples, give me a shout. A lot of you guys know my email. I'll put it in the chat here shortly too. And I'll put Jim's contact info in there as well. Okay. Let's see what else. The hypochlorous acid can also be animal grade. It's food grade. You can spray it on your husband if you get mad at him like I do. So, okay. All right. Jim, are you okay? Do you want me to keep going?
I'm good now. Thank you, folks.
Okay.
Thank you,
You're
Sarah,
so
for taking
welcome.
over
You're
for me.
welcome. You're
Sorry about
welcome.
that issue, everyone.
I'll click
Oh,
as you go. Just let me know next slide and I'll click it for you.
okay, perfect. Thank you, folks, for being patient with us. So, Pride Restoration, basically, we can do for real estate investors, save deals that otherwise die. So nobody likes deals that don't go well. So we'll help you. Things with water damage may come up, or mold, or smoke odor, sewage backups, and oftentimes they happen right at closing. Nobody wants that to happen, but we've had it happen recently with a recent buyer. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, where we're able to help them get the deal done. But basically, we'll help you avoid the money pits as well, quickly assess problems you may have with the property, kind of give you a clear scope, and the cost of what it would to be to fix the problems you may have with the property. Basically, turn a deal killer into a basically manageable repair and keeping both parties at the table, which is really important. The picture, by the way, you're seeing is one of our moisture meters we use to find moisture. And you'll notice there's a crack in that casing, window casing, and that's indicating water damage that you may not notice at first until you take a closer look at it. It indicates water got in between behind the casing and caused a separation. So if you see that in the property, that's a good sign there could be some water damage you need to take a look at. Pull that back, and the meter is just showing us. I can't read the reading, but it is showing elevated moisture readings there. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay.
So basically, minor damage, can even elevate to be more significant. And they also can reduce the perceived value of the property. Because a lot of times people might look at that and say, well, I don't know what's hidden behind something. So if they see something that looks like you see the cracking in the baseboard or casings, that what else are they not seeing that could be an issue? So there could be visible, there could be hidden damage. Basically what Sarah was talking about, we eliminate odor, smoke, pet odors using our hypochlorous acid, which is, of course, safe for people, safe for pets, but highly effective against mold, bacteria, odor, and making the home restore conditions. I'm so ready for you, and basically get a higher sale price, which everybody wants. If you're selling the property, that is. If you're buying the property, you may not want a higher sale price, but selling it for sure. Go ahead. And then speed up the closings, because time kills deals. So we often work on tight deadlines. We do offer 24-hour service and coordinate with insurance, provide documentation for the lenders as they'll want to make sure it's done right. And of course, faster cleanup, faster closings. Okay. So we also document, they want reassurance for buyers. Lenders want the proof that the work was done. Anytime you're dealing with an insurance claim, the mortgage company is going to be on the insurance check. A lot of people don't realize this. So if you have a property with a mortgage, expect the insurance company or mortgage company to be involved. The insurance company will automatically include the mortgage company's name on that payment. And on insurance claims, let's say you have a $100,000 claim on repairs. Well, the insurance company is going to hold back depreciation. That depends on how old the home is, the property is. That also depends on how old the roof is, if the roof's affected, how old the flooring is, how old the kitchen cabinets are, how old the furnace, HVAC systems are. So the depreciation could be substantial. So I've seen cases where $100,000 estimate is now reduced down to 70 or 60% of that. Then that check is forwarded to the mortgage company. So the mortgage company is not going to say, okay, well, we got $60,000 here. Go ahead and start the work. We'll give you 60,000. They're going to release probably 20% or 20,000 of that money to you. And if you've got major repairs, that $20,000 will go really quickly, especially if you've got mitigation involved first, because they want to see progress. And so you may be in situations have to finance part of it out of pocket, or get that money moving along out of pocket just to keep things moving, and waiting on the delays from the mortgage companies, waiting on inspections, a lot of things that have to take place. And a lot of people don't realize that. So a repair will take much longer if you have a mortgage. So keep that in mind. If you have a property and you do have a claim, you're able to pay the mortgage off, I highly recommend it versus dealing with a mortgage company. A lot of them are definitely been a hassle for us. And if you've ever been through that experience before, you can relate and knowing what it is. I know we have some questions in the chat. Pause for a second. I want to go back and look at some of these questions and I can give you some answers here. They want to know about quiet title nightmares. I guess that's something I don't have knowledge of, but someone else could. Are they? And flooring, someone needs help with flooring. Oh, that's Brian. Brian's a great
Ryan Morris
guy. Ryan
thing.
Morris, Advanced Carpet One. Ryan's got some great deals, by the way, on carpet. So if you need anything on flooring, if you need help with that. His number is 314-258. Is that 1346, Ryan? Can't tell. It looks like it. But Ryan Moore's Advanced One. And so he's got his number sharing that. And yeah, 1346 is the number. Okay. Let's see. That's the only one that really pertains to me right now. So we'll go on to the next one, Sarah. Uh, Basically, smart. You got to use pride, for listing a home. Make sure get lingering odors again, minor water issues, mold issues early. So if you have a property you're trying to sell, and if you've got somebody that walks in the door and they notice an odor, could be mold, could be animal odor. Well, that's a big turnoff, and you may not be able to get them through the front door once they smell that. So you've got to make sure if you don't, you may not notice the smell yourself, but I would invite a friend, a trusted friend, or a family member to come in and see if they notice any kind of particular odors that may be offensive to somebody. Because you're living in the property, you may not notice it, but somebody else will. And get those odors addressed. We have a product that Sarah talked about. We can come in and treat that, fog it, and eliminate those odors and help you get that home or that property sold. If it's something minor, but we'll find out where the problem is. There could be a source of mold, could be water hidden somewhere that you may not notice, or pet odors that are underneath carpet. We've got solutions for those. Okay, go ahead, Sarah. And also, help respond to coverage with, immediately and build trust with our clients. So, all right, and we're problem solvers. Also, pipes burst. Things happen with storms during emergencies, and basically help you stabilize the property. One thing on insurance, and I'll talk about that in a minute, about the stabilizing and things you need to do to mitigate your property, prevent further damage, and some of your duties of that. Okay, go ahead. And also help you, like I said, we talked about saving deals, speed up closings, increase the property value, which you want to do if you're planning on selling the property, and just keep it over time, and reduce stress for everyone involved. Okay. So these are some properties. Anyone affected by the tornado that we had last May here in St. Louis? It was horrible. And if you're not in the St. Louis area, we had a devastating tornado that no one expected. It came out, the weather wasn't supposed to be tornadoes that day, but we had a pretty major tornado, and it hit parts of St. Louis that much older communities of St. Louis, and a lot of these homes were not insured properly, and there were a lot of injuries. It's still very slow in the recovery here in St. Louis. And one thing we did a lot of work on a lot of these properties, and we discovered, and well, the homeowners discovered the homes were not properly insured. Mm-hmm. So it's critical to make sure you know what you have on your policy, what type of, if you have a replacement cost value, which is generally a lot more expensive, especially if it's a rental property or it's an older home, or you have an ACV property or policy, which only covers actual cash value. And you want to know the difference of those. The ACV, like I said, is depreciated value. And if your home is older and you have an older roof, you have older furnishings in the home, and like for instance in the tornado, they only pay you what it's worth now, not what it's going to cost you to recover it and rebuild it back to brand new. Like especially plaster walls. Plaster is very expensive. If you have ACV, they're going to pay for typically the depreciated value of that. And it's going to be hard to do the repairs. Go ahead, Sarah. Also, this was a case of a home we were called out to that had a fire. This was in the laundry room, a home out in Baldwin, and they had a siding company came in and replaced their siding. So you think, okay, no problem. We're getting new siding on the home. And they started discovering issues with, they were doing some work on the gutters, I guess, installing some Christmas lights. They were getting shocked from just installing Christmas lights. That's not normal. So they had an electrician come out, and he did notice there were some issues in part of the house. He did replace some electrical, but they had a fire about a few months ago, And you see the pictures of the fire there. That was in the laundry room. It caught the dryer vent on fire. Thankfully, the fire department made it out there quickly, but it caused smoke damage throughout the entire house. Now, I don't know if you can tell in the upper part of the pictures, but there were nails that when they put the siding in, they used 3.5 inch nails and screws that went into the electrical wiring. And so we had to take the drywall off all the exterior walls where the siding was. And we discovered 15 penetrations from the siding or from the screws and the nails into the electrical. So that required the family to move out of the house. We had to take the cabinets off the walls. We had to take out bathrooms, showers to get to all the areas. And they're now living in a rental house right now. The insurance company, thankfully, is paying for 100% of all the costs for this because they had a fire that caused the issue and they're actually paying to have it fixed. This is farmers insurance. Not all insurance companies would pay for this to be done. There was subrogation, which would be where they could go after the insurance company could go after the contractor that did this issue, but because of time and they didn't go after them at first, they originally thought it was the electrical company that did the work that caused the fire, but it wasn't. It was the siding company. So the siding company got away with this, but it's $100,000 plus cleanup repairs to this home, and it caused a lot of aggravation. Thankfully, they were not hurt or anything, so it's just a big inconvenience. But just be careful when you're having siding things installed. Make sure you understand what screws and nails you're using or they're using to not have an issue like this because it was a major problem. Go ahead. All right, so sometimes you don't see water behind cabinets. So people, if you've had water damage in the kitchen before, you might see the water on the floor and think, well, we're just going to clean it up. And thankfully, it didn't cause any other damage. But we've seen this happen time and time again where water gets underneath floors, cabinets, especially in the kitchen. A lot of homeowners have laminate flooring. Laminate flooring is beautiful, it's great and wonderful. But some of it will curl up if it gets just a little bit of water on it. They have what's called waterproof flooring, as Ryan has in the store, but it's not waterproof as far as all the way through. So if you get water that gets underneath that floor, and a lot of times you won't know if it got underneath the floor because it may look perfectly fine on the top if it's some types of laminate flooring. But if it's underneath the floor, could go right underneath the cabinets. It could run underneath. There's a lot of times there's multiple layers of flooring underneath. You can see in some of these pictures here. So our job is to find that water and where it penetrated through because it could be behind the cabinets and other areas. It's very important with water damage. It's what we call hidden water damage. And you'll see the plywood here, and some of it's black and rotten, but you can't tell because it's underneath. So that's why a lot of times we go in there, we have to start pulling up layers and multiple layers of flooring. Go ahead, Sarah. And here's a home that had some water damage from this one had a pipe break. So anyone have rental properties or any property, and if you're doing this was being rehabbed, it was almost all completely rehabbed. The homeowner, property owner, was out of town for a little while, and the water was left on in the wintertime. Not a good idea. So what happened, the pipe burst, and they went through 180,000 gallons of water went through this property over several days. The insurance company tried to fight with them and argue that it was neglect, that he didn't have the power on, he didn't have, they didn't take proper measures to prevent this from happening. And we helped the homeowner, we helped explain things to the insurance company and got it covered, 100% of it covered. And the guy did have, property owner had proof of gas. So he had to provide the water bill, he had to provide the gas service, he had to provide gas was on. It wasn't using a lot of gas, but what happened, the furnace got knocked out from the water damage. So it wasn't on. So then more water damage happened. So basically the key is make sure if you are doing rehabbing on a property or any property, if you're out of town and away from that property, especially in the wintertime, know where your water shutoff is and cut it off because you don't want an issue like this because it may not be covered by insurance if you don't provide the right to heat in the home or you're neglectful in some way possible. So that was a full gut that we had to gut
Mhm.
out, and it was a over $100,000 claim the insurance company had to pay. Go ahead. Again, this is pipes freeze and unthaw. That's some other pictures from that's mainly the kitchen area. But one thing in this home too, I want to talk about is we found a lot of asbestos in this house. And so as we're pulling up, we had to sample the ceiling tiles to see if they were asbestos. We had to sample flooring, and we found multiple layers of asbestos in this property that had to be tested and looked at. So it's one of those things you think, I'm just going to start cleaning up all this water damage and I'm going to get it taken care of. But first thing we did is you see, we took pictures, and pictures are so critical when you have any type of issue like this. People tend to start cleaning it up and panic, and I better get this off the floor before it causes more damage. But stop, take pictures, record videos, document every single thing you can of all angles of every part of the room, inside cabinets, any damage you see, get pictures of it because those pictures could be worth thousands of dollars for you on an insurance claim and making sure you get paid for everything you had. Okay. This is a recent house I talked about with that was under contract. So in this picture, you have two properties side by side. The house on the left is where the dryer or where the electrical fire was in the basement. And you can see it smoked up in the basement, and a fire in the basement is going to go straight up to other levels of the house. That's where smoke will travel. It got inside walls in areas, and so the house was under closing, and it was under contract to be closed. The house on the right is a separate property, but it was connected, and there was smoke as well in that property too. The homeowner, the realtor or the property owner that had the property, it was still insured, of course, and so they filed a claim and were still able to close everything because the insurance company was going to pay to have everything rehabbed and new carpet, new paint, new flooring, new everything in the home. And we're still in the process of finishing that project up. But the insurance company paid for everything to be cleaned on in that home. The house on the right, since it was a separate policy, separate house, they had what's called subrogation. The that gentleman on the right, that was the tenant living in there, but the owner lived in Texas. He filed an insurance policy under his policy that covered it, and then they have the obligation if they want to subrogate to the guy property owner on the left. But we cleaned everything. One thing I did too on the bottom left corner, you'll see a little hole in the wall. I use what's called a little makeup sponge. For you ladies, I use a little makeup sponges. I get them at Walmart or Walgreens, CVS. They use those to look for soot because a lot of times inside of wall cavities, you don't see it. Make a little hole inspection to see where that could be soot because that's where we were able to justify to have everything clean. We're able to open up a lot of walls. The in the construction on this home, the smoke traveled all the way through. It had been rehabbed several years ago, so there was new drywall in there, but it was furred out, so a lot of smoke went right up the walls all the way to the third floor. So we're in the process of finishing this house. Go ahead. And this is the water damage before and after. It was a sewer backup issue that they had in their home, combination of heavy rain and a clogged sewer line that caused this issue. And you see the after picture on the right. Everything looked like brand new flooring, painted the floor, everything was done, and the insurance policy paid for this claim. Go ahead. So declaration pages are so critical. As anyone have seen your deck page? A lot of you may have your deck page available on your phone through an app. Some of you may have it on your email, but I highly recommend you go through after this call, shortly soon after, and look at your insurance policy. Look at your deck page. You want to understand your coverages. So I'm going to show you here. If you look at section under 7, it says limits. So your dwelling, of course, is your home. That's your property from from the roof down. And that would just cover everything in your home. So your dwelling. So think of this as worst case scenario. If your house or property burnt to the ground or a tornado or something happened and it was a covered peril, meaning it was covered under your insurance for what happened, that's the most they would pay, the absolute most under the dwelling, unless you have other riders and endorsements. Other structures is typically fences, garages, things of that nature. If the garage is separate from the property, that's other structures. Your personal property would be, of course, any of your contents. If you move out of the property, that's all your furniture, all your clothes, jewelry, purses, everything you own that would be going with you if you move out of the house. This is where I see a lot of people are underestimated or underinsured because you don't think about everything in your home if you had to replace it. Because you might have bought things on sale, you bought things were given to you, maybe handed down from generations when you have in your home. And if you had to replace everything, or if you want to replace it all, what would it cost? Those are things you need to consider and think about. Do I have enough coverage? It's not expensive to add additional coverages to these areas. You're better off to have more insurance than not enough. That's real critical. Loss of use is if you had to move out of your house because you had a property damage, that's going to pay for where you're going to be staying at. And that's a lot of times that may or may not be enough. You got to, depends how much you're going to be spending. If you're being in a hotel, hotels are expensive. The insurance companies will help you find a home that's comparable to where you're living in. So that area, you need to make sure you have enough. And I recommend, these are percentages typically of the limits in this example. And you can extend that and make that more. Sometimes it's payable by a monthly basis, so much per month or so much per as a full amount, depending on if you're paying, let's say, $10,000 a month because you're high-end home, and that's what it costs to find you a comfortable property. So it's 120,000. You've got basically 12 months to pay for coverage. So if you're going to be taking longer for the repairs, or you got a contractor that's not moving properly in the job, then you may run out of coverage. So just keep that in mind of how much coverage you have for loss of use. Okay. And also you got deductibles, of course. These are very important. Everybody knows where their water shutoff valve is in your home. And you might know where it is. Your spouse may know where it is, but your kids know where it is. Because you may have kids home during the summer while you're at work and something happens. And if they're trying to call you and say, Mom, Dad, I can't find the water shutoff valve. Water's pouring out of the ceiling. What do I do? And you're in a meeting, you're on a plane, or you're somewhere that you can't be accessible. Meanwhile, damage is taking place. Well, you really need to show all your family members in your home where it is, how to shut it off. And a lot of them have simple little valves you turn. Some have handles on them. We provide little shutoff valve tags that you can put on your shutoff valve. That way you know where it is and they know where it is. And if you may have house sitters while you're on vacation checking your house, or if you leave for an extended time, shut your water off. That way you don't have to worry about that. Especially for rental properties, you need to make sure your renters know where all their shutoff valves are for the property in case of an emergency. Okay. So one thing on renters, if you have a renter, tenants in your property, I run in this a lot with people that say, well, I'm not going to worry about my tenant having renter's insurance because it's their stuff. Why do I care? Well, here's why you should care. Because if something happens, especially if they're negligent and cause a fire in your property or cause damage to your property, which may affect multiple other units in your building, that person would have a policy that you could access to go after for liability. Most renters insurance has $50,000 to $100,000 worth of liability coverage as part of it. So, because you're going to have out-of-pocket costs for deductibles, anything out of pocket, something your maybe insurance doesn't pay for. If you want to try to accommodate or help your other tenants out with help them move out, there could be other expenses. So that's a way you can access money through the tenant's insurance policy. Another thing you can do with tenants insurance is instead of them being responsible for the payment, you actually can have them, when you're renting the property to them, you could have them sign the renter's insurance policy as the renter, but you could be the payee of the policy. That's something you can set up with your agent. As long as they sign the policy, doesn't matter who makes the premium payment. That way, you know it's being paid, and you can even add another $10 or so extra under the rent, and just take that worry off of them that they're paying for it as part of the rent at this point. Also, make sure you're listed as additional interest or additional insured on that policy. That way, if there's a claim, that you'll be protected. Okay, go ahead. So disasters happen, of course. You know, toilets overflow, trees and buildings, fires, you name it, with mold. All kinds of things can happen. And some of this has happened. I've had toilets overflow in my home, and that's a scary thing, isn't it? If you, you know, we're flushing the toilet, especially if you're at your friend's house and you start flushing the toilet, and next thing you know, it's overflowing. And how do we stop it? There is a valve behind the toilet, by the way, if you didn't know that, that will shut the water off to the toilet. So make sure you know, make sure your kids know if they're old enough to know, hey, they can shut the valve off there to the toilet. Quick funny story: I was at a hotel out in West Virginia. I was a Motel 6, and got in the middle of the night, used the toilet, and it was a really small bathroom. And I kind of leaned over for a second to grab some toilet paper, and unfortunately, the toilet went with me. Was I moved to the side, and the toilet fell off the valve. The valve came off, disconnected from the back of the toilet. So the hose is now spraying water everywhere. I've got water going throughout the home, and or throughout this hotel room. It's 3 in the morning. I call the front desk and I say, hey, we got a problem here. We got water flowing out of the toilet and it's going all over the floor. And of course, I'm on the second floor of the hotel. So unfortunately, this water pipe penetrating through the ceiling into the unit below. And they're like, well, the maintenance guy is not here and we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to shut the water off. And, you know, I'm trying to turn off the valve and it won't stop. And, you know, so it was a mess. So I was like, okay, we're going to be moving to a different room and flooding the room out. So things happen. So thankfully they didn't go after me or anything, but it was pretty crazy. Go ahead.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, Jim. Go
Oh,
ahead. Sorry.
no problem. So this one thing about with hidden damage is really important, and we use a tool, use a thermal camera. There's actually a property that I stayed out in North Carolina when the hurricane hit out Wilmington, North Carolina, and I noticed it was a musty smell, and the ceiling really didn't look wet or anything. But I used my camera, and that you can see the camera to the right. The purple and blue you're seeing is water damage, and especially wet, really on that blue. And it takes moisture or humidity readings, or sorry, temperature readings of that surface. So we're able to tell the landlord, hey, you got a roof problem, you got water leaking in, to take care of it. So having the proper tools are very important. Okay, go ahead. So leaky faucets, if it's not fixed properly, we see this a lot in properties that there is water damage in kitchen cabinets. This one actually had some water damage behind the cabinets as well and underneath the flooring. This was something insurance was going to actually took care of paying for it because, but one issue we ran into, you see where it looks like black on there. The property owner had actually called the insurance company and said, hey, I think I've got mold in my cabinets. And mold is a 4-letter word. You don't want to use the word mold, especially if you want to get it covered by insurance, because mold is not covered by really every insurance policy out there as the first thing. Now, if there's water damage because you're out of town, you come home and you've got water damage and pouring out of the ceilings, and of course it happened when you were gone for the last week, that you've got mold now from it, that's a different story. And that could be some of that could be covered under the mold part, like testing and air scrubbers and things. But generally, water damage is going to be the main thing will be covered. So just be careful with the word mold. And what I always tell people when the adjuster calls and says, do you have any visible mold in your property? The answer should always be, I don't know. I'm not aware of any. I'm not a mold expert, I have no idea, but not that I'm aware of, basically. Okay. That's the best thing to say. Um, if mold is discovered during the tear out or demo part, that's a different story that can be dealt with. But don't lead in with, yes, I have mold, because they're going to think of long-term issues and try to find a way not to cover that claim. Okay. And this is where we use moisture meters to see where the crack is on the baseboard. The casing, we took it off, and you see the discoloration behind the casing on the drywall. So that's a good indicator of where we're looking for moisture problems. Okay. So anybody know what caused this? This cracking? I'll put anything in the chat if you want. This was a water damage, window leaking, and this is if you see this in a home you're thinking about buying, well, there could be a lot of underlying issues there. What caused that? A lot of times, if you have a big storm, especially like a hurricane or a strong tornado, you can have pressurization around windows. It can pull them out, separate them, and let water get in there, and the water will cause the expansion. Foundation shift, it could be as well. And someone asked a question too about rough estimate percentage wise between replacement value and the lesser, which is the ACV amount. That really depends, Christopher, on the type of policy you have and the adjuster. Depreciation is kind of a random thing the adjusters will use and come up with. I've seen it, of course, in a newer home, it's going to be a lot less. If it's an older property with a lot of older furnishings in our walls and HVAC and whatnot, it's going to be a much higher depreciated amount. And that, by the way, that to get the recoverable depreciation, if your policy is recoverable depreciation, RCV policy, that's normally not paid back until the repairs are fully made, and they may require pictures or other documentation to prove that the work was done. Because a lot of the insurance companies use this as a protection, because a lot of times people may not get the work done, especially on roofs. If you have, like, say, hail damage and you get the ACV money up front, and if you don't get the work done, you say, well, it's not bad, it's not leaking right now, I'll just get it done later on. They don't have to reimburse you that RCV if you don't get the work done. So it's a good way for them to save money on a claim. So that's, again, it's be aware of that, because you might have to finance some of that money out of pocket and get it done before you get that remaining RCV amount. And there's time limits, by the way, on getting that RCV back. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years. You want to make sure your policy, of how much time you have to recover all the depreciation. Okay, go ahead. So what caused this issue? Anybody have any idea? It wasn't a tornado. This is actually someone's bedroom. And they had give you an idea here. A lot of times, back in the day, people used nails to secure drywall to ceilings. And that's not code anymore, but it was when a lot of these homes were made and built. And so over time, the insulation could have been humidity or moisture, could have been a slight roof leak, but the insulation got wet and the ceiling collapsed. Thankfully, nobody was in that bed when it happened, but the insurance company actually caused this under their collapse policy and their insurance. So, yeah, storm related, there's some water damage, but mold, and it paid for everything to be cleaned up and repaired and replaced. But it was a big mess. People had to move out of their house while this was all done. Okay, go ahead. So anybody see anything in these pictures here? This was a property that they hired. Actually, a restoration company came in and did the holes on the left. And when you see the holes on the left, they were looking for mold, and they did all the cuts higher up on the walls. Well, there was a leak in the property from some water intrusion from groundwater. And if you see where there was the area on the right, I had them trimmed back a little bit further, and that's where your drywall touches the floor. That's the most critical area where mold is going to start growing. It's going to wake up from the floor. It's not going to be normally higher up. It's going to start on the floor. So that's where you want to, if you're looking for mold, you start behind the baseboard and you're looking for any kind of discoloration. You'll see the baseboard, how it's darker as well. So they basically cut the holes up and they told the owner of the property that they didn't see any mold. And I saw the pictures and immediately I saw the mold on the right side that kind of zoomed in on. So they had to get it taken care of. And basically, you cut out walls. We do 2 foot flood cuts generally when you get water damage. And by the way, on doing the flood cuts, we always go 25 inches up on drywall. So if you're doing the work yourself, I would do a 25-inch mark up the wall. Reason why we do 25 and not 24, because when you're doing drywall replacement, drywall is of course 4 foot tall, and that way you leave an inch on the bottom as a gap, because water, you get moisture in concrete, moisture, just a little bit of water can get on the floor. It'll save you your drywall if you don't have to replace it if you had a little bit of water damage in there. But we always do 25 inches and then leave an inch on the bottom, and then set up the equipment to dry. Okay, go ahead.
Did you want me to stay on this one, Jim?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
And this was a job, not our job, but this was a job I saw online. And a lot of times people think I'm just going to put a bunch of equipment in there and I'm just going to dry it out. Well, the problem with this home here with the water damage, you see the cabinets were against the little island bump out. There was moisture that got behind the cabinets. It was also this laminate flooring. Water got underneath the flooring as well. And if you have flooring like this, the water is going to get underneath the floor. You know, you may not see it. It may not wrinkle. It may not start buckling up, but there's going to be moisture at that floor, 100%. And if there's other layers behind it, there's below it. If it's concrete, doesn't matter, wood, or it's going to be problems. So you got to pull the floor up. You can't just try to dry it, and so you're in it with mold problems you don't want to deal with later on. It's going to be a lot more expensive to fix. So also a lot of times people think, well, I need to get 5 bids. I had my house flood. I've got insurance, but the insurance company told me to get bids. No, no, no. That's not the time for bids. You got to get it done. We use standardized pricing. Most companies in the area do use what's called Exactimate, which is what most insurance companies honor and use. So it's not important to get the bid. If you're paying out of pocket, of course you need to get probably several bids, but don't just go by price. You want to go by somebody that's reputable, that knows what they're doing, going to do a good job and stand behind their work. We also discuss scope with the adjuster, and we want to be on the same page because it's very important to know, okay, what are they paying for? What are they not paying for? And we'll look at that job with the property owner and to decide, okay, what needs to be done. And we also use our meters to justify what needs to be dried and what needs to be coming out. Okay. We also have contents, so contents have to be addressed in a loss. And if you have a rental property with the tenant, and if in case they don't have renter's insurance, but the property has to be cleaned because of fire, water damage, or some other claim happened, your insurance company should pay to have the contents moved out of the way, whether it be getting a pod in place or moved off site, depending on the property and where you can put things. A lot of property owners don't realize that. So it's best to have the tenant to have their own insurance. That way it'll pay, and it's a lot easier to get that handled. But if not, we will come in and pack it up and move it. In homes, we have storage areas and warehouse space here. We have 2 actual warehouses in St. Louis that we used to for content cleaning, moving, and storage, and that's part of the process of mitigation, and that's something normally covered by insurance as well. And the pricing, someone asked about LVP. Yeah, LVP for sure definitely has to be taken care of, and it's called Exactimate, Exactimate. Exactimate is what we use for pricing. Okay. So in a nutshell, we really hope you don't need us, but if you do, we've got 75 years of experience staff member between myself and our team here at Pride to help you. And I'm available for any questions you might have. My cell phone number is on there. Please save that in your phone. That's 618-779-1284 is my cell phone. I do answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you have something happen at 3 in the morning, I will answer the phone and I can get a crew out there. And so because properties have to
Um,
be mitigated quickly. Go ahead, Sarah.
I'll stop sharing and then I'll put your contact info in the chat while you talk and answer questions, Jim. I can also look in the
Okay.
chat to see if there's any questions that you
You
haven't
guys can
answered.
raise your hands, take yourself on mute.
Yep,
If
they
you
can
got
ask.
time, answer any questions. I know a lot of information there to share.
Such great stuff too, Jim. I mean, you touched on some things that a lot of people miss, like the it being an additional insured on your renter's insurance. That's huge to know if they stop paying insurance or if there is a
Right.
claim also. So, I mean, that's stuff that you really want to make a note of. And this will be great to watch the replay too, because you did give us so much information. I mean, but you know, I think it's just fantastic what you're able to share with us here. And hopefully, like you said, hopefully we'll talk to you soon, but not too soon, you know. But it's really good,
Yeah, I mean,
valuable
yeah, I appreciate
information.
it. I'm available for questions. If anybody wants to text me, questions or information, or look at their policies and just kind of, glance over it. If you have a claim, if you have an insurance document from the adjuster, just, those adjuster claims are a lot of times they're written very low estimates. Don't settle. One thing I forgot to mention, John, was about public adjusters.
Mm.
We have a gentleman maybe on the call that had a fire recently in a property, and he was approached by a public adjuster right off the bat. Normally they'll come out right after, even before the fire trucks have left the property, and they show up at your home and say, "Hey, you need to hire me because I'm going to help you make more money. I'm going to help you make sure you don't get taken advantage by the insurance company." Well, in this particular case, the gentleman, I talked to him before he hired the public adjuster. Thankfully, I did because he had an ACV policy, meaning he was only going to get so much. And so the adjuster came out, met with him, maxed out the policy, gave him the full value of the policy. And if you would have hired the public adjuster, it would have cost him $13,000 out of his pocket for nothing. So a lot of people, do not talk to the public adjuster. Don't sign up with them. I used to be a public adjuster myself. I've got all the knowledge of being a public adjuster in Missouri and Illinois. Be happy to answer any questions, but do not hire somebody. I've talked to a lot of people that are regretting that decision. I'm not saying you shouldn't ever hire one, but just make sure you understand what you're getting into before you hire one. Okay.
That's a great point, Jim, because when we had a fire a few years ago, I had probably 15 or 20 of them approach me. And a lot of them are pretty, I don't want to say sly, but they don't really tell you everything up front, what you're getting
Right.
into. So you do have to be aware.
You got to be aware. You got to be aware of what you're doing and make sure it's something you really need to do before you jump to it because they will put a lot of pressure on you. You
Mhm.
don't have to hire one right away. And the other thing I didn't mention about appraisals, John, that if you have an insurance claim and let's say the adjuster comes out and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you $100,000," and you've had estimates from contractors, and they say, "Hey, we're looking at $200,000," and the adjuster says, "Nope, I'm not budging 100,000. You can find somebody to do it for that price because I'm not paying any more." You can go to appraisal. Every policy has an appraisal clause where once you hire an appraiser, that's basically an independent person that's not affiliated with your claim. They're not doing the work. I can be an appraiser as well for you if you want me to come in and advise you, and the insurance company has to have an appraiser too. So that adjuster basically is kicked off that claim, and they have to hire their own independent person. Those two people would meet, and if they can come to an agreement on what the total cost of the claim is, you get settled and paid out. And if they're not, there's an umpire that would be selected. Basically, as another almost like a judge, and if he sides with one of the parties, it's a done deal. Generally, I see appraisals can be done in 60 to 90 days. Generally, the claims are much higher at the end of it. There is a fee you pay for that, but generally the fee is absorbed as because you get a lot more money out of the claim. So it's a better option than public adjusters do an appraisal if you run into that situation where the adjuster is not being moving in your direction. Okay.
Wow. Wow, such great information, Jim, man. This is just like this is like drinking from the water hose here.
There is a
It's
lot.
it's great stuff though, and I tell you, it's going to be good. I know to watch the replay too. We'll get that up as soon as we can. We'll put that on YouTube for for everybody to watch. But this is stuff you may not know now, may not need it or think you need it now. But as soon as you have something go on, that's when all this stuff comes to the surface. And
Exactly.
you brought up the insurance, which a lot of people, I think you should review that every year.
You really
Myself.
should. You really should.
Hmm.
Because you might think, well, I'm insurance poor. Well, make sure you have the right policy. One thing I didn't touch on, but insurance policies, people often will buy it based off price.
Yep.
And it's not something you should buy on price, because if they say they're lower or cheaper, there's a reason. What are you giving up on your policy?
Hmm.
If there's something that didn't have enough, it may not be covered, because the cheapest insurance policy could be the most expensive one you ever bought when it doesn't cover your claim, or
Yes.
you a big hassle there. So be careful of that.
Yeah, great point. Price is not everything. In insurance, it's not one size fits all.
It's
Your
not
property is very specific compared to somebody else's.
right.
Hmm. So very good points. Hmm.
We appreciate everybody on there. We got information about hypercourse acid. The link is on there. Our website is priderestoration.com. So if you want to go on there and look at information, like I said, email us. We're always available to answer questions and help with anybody with property issues and concerns with anything related to restoration or insurance.
Yeah, we really appreciate that, Jim. If you don't mind, maybe giving your contact information one more time verbally here.
Yeah, it's so my cell phone is 618-779-1284. My office number is 314-664-8844.
Thank you. And James and Dana, did you have a question there? I see your hand went up.
Yes, I just want to know, is it possible for us to get some of those tags you were talking about for shut-offs?
Yes, we can get it to you. Sarah has those, so
I'm happy to send those to you. Would you guys like me to drop some off to you or mail them to you or?
Either way, it doesn't matter.
James, I think you emailed me. I'm going to be responding to that too. I think you emailed me a couple days ago. I was going to
Correct.
get to that email today. Let me email you with that email once I send that to you today, and we'll coordinate a time and day where I can stop by sometime or something, or meet you somewhere, and I'll give those to you, or I can mail them to you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think everybody ought to have the shut off tags because I know you mentioned that your children not knowing, but what if you have a babysitter even or something? I mean,
right,
there's so many times when we turn ours off when we leave. I mean, that's
right,
just we've had two floods. I told you about the one the other day at
right,
the pinhole. You just never know. And we're 100 miles away, so anything can happen.
right. Anything can happen, right? And you don't want to be there when it happens, and
No.
you don't want to be gone when it happens, and come home to quite a mess.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long to fill up everything with water.
Right, that's sure.
Hmm. So very good points, man. You touched on so many great things here, Jim, and we thank you, Sarah, too, for even bringing this back up. Sarah's the queen of networking, as far as I'm concerned. She's in every event I think in the whole universe right now. Every time I turn around, she's at another networking event, and we really appreciate your kind of reconnecting here because I know Jim, we met a few years ago, and then Sarah came back in, and this is a great place for us. We've been meeting every Friday. Now we're in our 7th year, and this is where we share information. So we really appreciate this, and we'll also,
Appreciate that. Thanks. Sorry about the glitch in the beginning of that, but
well, mine went out too for a while. I had to leave. I didn't even know I left, but my electricity flicked and everything went down. So anyway, that's our great technology we have these days.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yep, yep.
All
Yeah,
good.
if you guys need any general contractors or real estate agents, insurance agents, any plumbers, I have an Excel spreadsheet full of them that I do one-to-ones with. Like always, if you guys need any resources, just email me like I always tell you. If you guys need any shut-off valves, email me. I'd be happy to drop those off to you or mail them to you or something. Any other questions, just shoot them my way and we can get you guys taken care of.
I think I forgot to mention we do repairs too, so
Yeah,
we can take
Daniel,
care
just
of.
email me if you want to be added to my Word document that I
Yeah,
send out for resources and stuff. Just email me, Daniel, if you want to be added to that list. I'd be happy to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great.
all
Such
right.
good information. We'll get the replay up as soon as we can. I'm a little more flexible today because unfortunately, because Laura's not here, but that's just so I'll be here by myself tonight.
Oh,
In between all that, that's okay. It's me and the hummingbirds. We're good.
That's
So
funny. That's
we really,
funny.
really appreciate you guys coming in and spending your time with us because I know you guys do a great job and you do cover a wide area. Something hopefully we don't need too soon, but I'll tell you, it's invaluable to have your contact information too. It's something we
You're
all
welcome,
need.
John. Thanks a lot for having us on today, and we appreciate it. And hope
Thank
everybody
you
has a
Yeah.
very,
great weekend. And
Yeah, we're
yeah,
happy to be a resource for you guys. Anything that you guys need, just shoot me an email. I put my email in here again. And it's S like my first name and my last name, Cantrell, Cantrell at priderestoration.com. So if you guys have questions or need resources or any hypochlorous acid, we do create that in our office ourselves. If you'd like to order some, we do have a website I can shoot to you as well. So if you want to be added to my Word document to be a resource in the community that I shoot out to other people, let me know. Just email me. Let us know what we can do to help you.
all right, sounds good.
all right. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else got any last minute questions here? I know we're just a little bit after the hour, so I try to be respectful of your time. We do appreciate it though. This is stuff I know you guys could spend probably 6 more hours and we wouldn't even get everything covered today, but that's,
Right, we
Yeah,
could.
and, but we do appreciate it very much.
he likes to talk about it. He could have added 40 more slides if I let him, you
Oh,
know?
sure. I could see that. And then not even cover everything because there's so much
Exactly.
to
There's
There's so
it.
so
much
much
to do, so
information.
much to it.
Right.
There's so much information. I
Well, we'll
said,
save it
Jim,
for
you
the
do
next one,
realize
John.
Okay. Well,
I,
yeah, if you wouldn't mind, you can come back at some point, maybe later in the year, and we'll do an
Yeah,
update and you can show us some new stuff that we didn't know about.
sure. I'll
we'll
be
add
happy
40
to.
more slides to it, Jim.
That'd be
Be
great.
happy to.
All
Thanks,
right.
John. Thanks.
Well, thank
Appreciate
you
it,
again.
everyone.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you all next week then.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.
Thanks.